So, which country is best for a tech startup, especially in Asia? Now, by tech startup, what I'm referring is to the startups which are based on technology, cloud hosting, cloud computing, or any kind of modern startup which actually is based on app and maybe technologies using the Google infrastructure or AWS infrastructure. Now, what has happened? Amazon Web Services started its operation in 2008, and then Google also followed the suit. Both of these companies, and then subsequently, I think Microsoft and Alibaba also came in. But both of these companies in the beginning made computing power available through cloud. Around 15-20 years back, if you would have been interested in doing any startup, it would have been mandatory for you to be in United States, because it would have required typically some kind of data center, capacity rented. Maybe some companies have gone to the level of building their own data centers. Now all that is already taken care of by Amazon Web Services and Google. And that has actually made it possible that startups can be run from any country, anywhere in the world. So there is a trend that in last 5-6 years, all the startups are coming up, especially in the locations where the density of population is high and overall population is also big. For example, there are a lot of startups coming up in India, a lot of startups are in China and Southeast Asia. And I believe that Singapore is the right location for running or setting up any of these kind of startups, especially if your focus is in Asian market. So I will explain you few points as to why I feel Singapore is the right location. So let's proceed ahead. So the first point I want to highlight is the location, geographical location of Singapore. Now, if you are building any app or if you are building any web app or any kind of cloud-based services, the main consumer of your services are going to be people. And as you can see, Singapore is located somewhere here at the southern bottom of Malaysia, and roughly in 4,000 kilometers range, you will notice many highly populous countries come. For example, China, India. Then Indonesia, Pakistan and Bangladesh are also in this radius, and I think they are also in top 10 highly populous countries. Then Philippines, Japan, Thailand. So as you can see, this red color radius actually covers almost 70% of the world population. Not only that, in this population there is a significant diversity also. The practices are different, their living styles are different, languages are different, their eating habits are different. So all this offers you excellent opportunities for exploring market for your startup. Singapore being at a location which can provide you clear access to all these markets is definitely a preferred choice in that case. The next point is Singapore companies are taxed at a very low tax rate and there is no capital gain tax. The corporate tax rate for Singapore entities is 17%, whereas startups get some exemption. So the effective tax rate for startups might come down to as low as 5 to 7% for first 3 years. The second point is that capital gain tax is 0%. So what that means is if you sell your company or if you divest some part of your equity, you don't have to pay any taxes on that capital gain. For example, you might have heard the case of Eduardo Saverin, who was the founder of Facebook. So when he got significant payment for divesting his shares in Facebook, at that time, I'm not sure whether he became a citizen of Singapore, but he definitely became a permanent resident of Singapore and gave up his US citizenship so as to avoid the huge tax liability. Singapore has a lot of startup schemes and it also has a developed startup ecosystem. So Enterprise Singapore, a government organization, has many programs which actually helps all the startups to get necessary funding, to get necessary skills for development and further progress. Similarly, there are associations like Fintech Association, Blockchain Association, where you can become member or you can go for any of their programs and connect with the network of people. The next point is about presence of venture capital and private equity. Now, if you are running your startup somewhere far away and very sparsely populated country, then getting necessary funding and venture capital can be difficult. However, for Singapore, it's not a problem. There are more than 200 plus registered funds and family offices in Singapore who are always constantly on lookout of new investing opportunities. Majority of the worldwide equity funds have set up their offices here in Singapore. In addition to this, there are a lot of incubators in then National Technological University, Singapore Management University, and other similar universities runs various programs which are kind of Y Combinator type programs for development of entrepreneurial and technological talent. So you can definitely take benefit of these programs and search for co-founders or maybe search for right ideas, or if your product is already designed, then look for new marketing opportunities. The next point is Singapore has a world-class infrastructure. Singapore ranks number 2 in globally for top supply chain infrastructure, and financially also it has a very significant high rank. More than 110 plus banks are in Singapore, and if you are into the areas like fintech or payment startups or blockchain, definitely having access and contact with these banks will be beneficial. Talented manpower is available in Singapore. You can get people of any skill set in Singapore easily. And if the skill set is really very rare, then in that case, obviously, there are other regional locations where you can hire people. For example, I know many startups, their IT development is being done in Bangalore in India, which is just 3 hours away from Singapore by flight. And the time zone is only 2.5 hours. So it's not really difficult to manage development work from India. So in summary, Singapore offers many advantages to startup founders if they plan to set up their base in Singapore. And hence I think you should really think of Singapore as your next startup location.
Thank you for watching this video. This video was brought to you by Epica Consulting Singapore. Subscribe to our channel today to get notified when new videos are posted.